Welcome to the Thunder and Lightning Show. It's John the Byzantine here with Ryan the Byzantine. Is that right?
That's right. I've come from the holy mountain to impart my wisdom upon the viewers.
Yeah, that was slightly sarcastic there, but Happy New Year to all of our European viewers,
Oh
especially
yeah.
those in Ireland. It's just hit midnight, so
Oh
Happy New
wow.
Year. And the rest of you, you're watching the Thunder and Lightning Show instead of college football. So I don't know if that shows that you're not a fan, or if you're just or you're not a fan of college football, or if you're a dedicated follower of Thunder and Lightning Show. Who cares? Doesn't
I
matter.
I will make a remark on that after we've done our opening ceremonies
Okay.
about college football.
But yes, Ryan has come from down from the mountain, and you've been enlightened this Advent, and it's not from what did you give up all of YouTube?
No, I did not give up all YouTube. I just gave up like the Trad Cat Press and their YouTube, so like Return to Tradition, all that stuff. Even your show, believe it or not, John, I did not watch your show during Advent, so I'll have to binge watch since I've come back.
Oh, well, that's why my view counts were. But
I wonder, to be honest, I wonder how many of these view counts were from me rewatching the shows. I probably watched some of this stuff 20 times, But
oh well, I don't know. I know the Cardinal Supich video did get quite a few viewers,
I
which
saw
was
that it had 500, right?
yeah, which I was surprised. I mean, basically, it's like me. I was after Taylor Marshall. Like my video came out after Taylor Marshall's.
Somehow he beat you. Usually you beat him to the punch, but he beat you.
Yeah, well, it's same day. Like I was gonna do it same day, and then about half an hour before the show, I looked and I saw that he had posted his video, and I was like, ah, man,
Yeah.
I just barely missed it. But I can't really. That's nothing I can do. I have to actually do the research first.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm just reading, and then I'm like, wait, let me think about this. And
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know, but yeah, Supich. That was one of the interesting things that happened during Advent, or well, I guess it was just after Advent,
Well, and
just after
the
Christmas.
Roach Dubia came out.
Yeah, so it was a really and people do a year in review show, and I was thinking, wow, I mean, even if there was a month in review, I mean, so much is happening just constantly. And I expect it to even ramp up even further going into January. So after this weekend, um, I think that I expect the news cycle to be completely full. EVTN, I don't expect to ever have any problems filling the show with
Yeah.
news stories because we're approaching the synod. Pope Francis' health is a little shaky apparently, and
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
it's going to be a crazy year.
Yep.
So Major Ryan.
Well, wait, let me impart my wisdom. I was reading as I was in the desert for the however many days of Advent it was, the internet desert, so to speak. I have a quote from the Ladder of Divine Ascent for you. When you come out of solitude, guard what you have gathered. When the cage is opened, the birds fly out, and then we shall find no further profit in solitude. These are the words of Ryan the Retrograde in his reflections upon a holy Advent. But actually, that's not quite that's I'm not quite that holy, and I do have some reflections. And I just wanted to start out with that before we start talking about battle plans and all that stuff. Is Brett's wife, Pamela, she questioned me on I think it was New Year's Eve, or sorry, that's tonight, Christmas Eve, or it was the Sunday before or whatever, and she said, how's this been for you? You haven't been on the internet or whatever, and I said, it's interesting. I've kind of learned a lot. And namely, the thing that I learned is a lot of this stuff that people do on these blogs, on the Facebooks, watching the YouTubes, and this sort of thing, is it's a lot of it's a lot of time wasting going on there, in the sense that you're not accomplishing anything by reading this. Okay, it's one thing if you're reading a devotional work, all right, whatever that might be, the ladder of divine ascent. Um, okay, you're going to learn some spiritual insights. If you're watching something about prayer, like I'm watching this 10-part series by Father Cashin about Benedictine prayer and spirituality, and I'm about in episode 5 or 6. That's really, really good use of your time. But some of this stuff, like return to tradition, okay, where you got your 15 minutes of outrage every morning and you're like, what did the bad guys do now? Why should I rage? And and reading Canon 212 and Twitter, especially, like I probably spent 15 minutes reading through Twitter last night, and I sent some of that to you and Brett. There's the controversy about Michael Lofton having fake sock puppet accounts of Orthodox priest converts, but they're fake.
And the newest news, Christine Niles supposedly deleted her Twitter account.
Whoa!
but you wouldn't care if you were off of Twitter. You wouldn't know. The viewers wouldn't care, right?
No, you
because
wouldn't care.
It's irrelevant.
It's irrelevant, and that's the point that I want to make here. Is that, let me close this. The point that I want to make here is this: that we should. I watched I recommend to the viewers. There was a Bishop Schneider produced a year-end / New Year's address, and it's on some tiny Italian channel. If you want me to post it in here, I can give it to you.
Sure.
I'll try to find it though. While you're talking about something else, I'll post it in the chat here, and then you can post it. But he said we have to keep, at the end of every year, we have to consider our death. That it's very soon. We're going to die, all of us, really soon here. We don't know when, but it could be tomorrow or whatever. It's just a short amount of time, and so we have to think eternity is right around the corner for us. And the whole purpose of this life is to know, love, and serve God in this world so that we can be happy with him forever in the next. And so we should cultivate the things that bring us into a closer relationship with God, that bring us a love of God and a love of neighbor, and avoid those things that give us a disquietude and an aggravation and an anger and things like that. So now, that being said, you should have some kind of knowledge about what's going on. For instance, this roach dubia. Okay, I know it exists. Have I read the thing in great detail? No. Am I going to read the thing in great detail? No. Am I reading commentaries about it? No. I've just watched what Bishop Schneider said about it. I read something on it was either like on LifeSite or Eric Salmon's, what he said about it, and Father Z, I think he had some comments on it. Just stuff sites that I would normally read anyway. And of course, I don't go in there and read these things thoroughly like I'm reading a Bible. It's just skimming the article to see if there's anything interesting there. But how does that stuff impact my life? Well, in this case, it might, and for a lot of people it will. I honestly have no idea what's going to happen. Like if you're in Tomato Supich's diocese, you've already gotten some restrictions there, so that'll lead into when I start talking about the battle plan. What do you do in that circumstance? But really, I think that continuing in this idea about what I learned from this fast from the internet, we need to pray twice as much as we talk. We need to pray twice as much as we consume Twitter and Facebook and these threads and feeds and Canon 212 and all that. Twice as much, not equal times, twice as much. So everybody better start like hitting a clock or a timer or whatever. And if you've spent 5 minutes on YouTube, no, let's just say you've spent 7.5 minutes reading Canon 212 or Return to Tradition or whatever, you now have to pray a whole rosary, 15 minutes. Okay. So that'll really cut down on this time wasting for sure. And as you do this, the more prayer you get, you're going to actually focus on what's important is your relationship with God. And you won't care so much as about what some idiot is doing somewhere and how he's destroying the church and all this stuff. And, Well, and that's something that we'll address when we get into the battle report here. But anyway, those are my remarks about what I learned there. We should do a lot less consuming of these medias, a lot less talking, pray twice as much as we spend on these other outlets. Now, again, there's a legit use for let's say you're doing something that's not going to drag you down, like you're watching arm wrestling on YouTube. Okay, for some reason I've gotten into arm wrestling on YouTube. I think it was when I watched one video of the schoolboy, and then I'm getting all these arm wrestling videos. So I watch arm wrestling videos, I watch poker, some other stuff. But it's not all, oh, what's Cardinal Mueller saying or Cardinal Sarah? Those guys are boring. I never want to hear anything that Sarah says ever again. Never again do I want to hear a word that man utters. It's better to watch arm wrestling than it is to read or listen to anything that Cardinal Sarah says.
Yeah, he'd be particularly disappointed by what he just said. So
the dude wrote the book on silence. He should have taken his own advice and never said another word. He should have retired to a cave in the desert and never come back, like I did for Advent, but don't come back, Cardinal Sarah. You'll be doing the church a service. If you go into silence and hide in the desert, you'll be doing us a service. Anyway.
Well, don't come back until you're prepared to, defend the Catholic faith.
No, he thinks that the Catholic faith is whatever the Pope says now is the Catholic faith. And if that's what you think, then you go ahead and do that. But I don't think that that's the Catholic faith. I respectfully disagree. And there it is. You do you. I'm going to do me. I hope to see you in heaven.
Now, I will say Return to Tradition is a big fan of Parent Ryan, so he has that going for him.
He does,
and
yeah.
I want to say, like, maybe it's just because I've been doing this for so long. It's like, some of these podcasts, some of these videos, I'll listen to them and I'll get like 5 minutes in and I'm like, okay, I don't care. Like, I'm just done. Like,
yeah.
And I think, I don't know. I mean, I think people, if you're watching EVTN to get your news, I mean, I compile that. Whenever that actually loses popularity, I'm going to quit. I'm not going to do that forever. And there are probably a lot of other great news sites too. I mean, that's kind of a staple of this channel. But like at the end of the day, I don't know. There's people that are on Twitter all the time, and some of them probably have real jobs. A lot of them have families. And I'm thinking, man, like, and I need to maybe cut down on some of my Twitter time. I mean, I don't spend a lot of time on Twitter, but that's where I get some of my news. But at the same time, like, it's just shocking to see people, and the social media has an addictive quality about it. So I don't know, but man, if you have a family, like, why are you on Twitter?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, I don't know. And people were so upset whenever they lost their followers following the purge about a year ago. And I only had like 200 followers, so I'm like, who cares? I lost 20, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like a status thing because you don't benefit from having 14,000 followers. I mean,
no, you're not getting any money, are you?
When you don't benefit, you also don't benefit from having discussions or arguments with the modernists.
No, Twitter is. Are you still talking about Twitter here?
Twitter, yeah.
Yeah, that's worthless. I just read an article that said going on Twitter is just an echo chamber. It's people talking to themselves in public. That's all that it is. There's nobody that reads any of these. Maybe some people read the tweets, but it's all bots and modernists. It's like post something and never engage with anybody else. If you're going to do something on Twitter, just write and never engage. Except Parent Ryan can engage because he is a modernist and Twitter is for modernists, so
yeah,
he fits in.
Yeah, congratulations. So,
What's that? What'd you say? You broke up there.
congratulations to Parent Ryan for passing 1,000 followers.
Yes,
Yeah.
credit to all the people who have helped Anthony Stein and whatnot, and I really enjoy John. I enjoyed that poll that he took. What should I do for New Year's? It was like balloon mass, pride mass. What were the other choices? Pachamama thing,
Yeah.
vaccination, information clinic, or something.
Well, the Pachamama Mass won. It was an indigenous ceremony mass, and it was like, oh, there you go. You have a Pachamama ceremony with people
There
in
you go.
headdresses, and
Yeah,
kind of like that guy in Chicago, that priest in
yeah,
Chicago.
I heard about that. Was that Father Flieger? Who was it?
Yeah, it was. And Taylor
Awesome.
Marshall did a video on that. So, and his was pretty comprehensive. So I'm not going to do one.
Oh
But
yeah.
it was a two. Let's see. The video was like 2.5 hours or something of this mass. I don't know if it was Christmas Eve or Christmas Day or St. Stephen's Day. I don't know. But there was like this play performance thing, and they had like these um, stage lights, and they had some jazz music.
Oh.
Well, they were going up for communion. It was like that chill jazz music that they play in like lounges. Like,
They should have played Linus and Lucy from the Charlie Brown Christmas.
yeah, I mean, I was like Taylor Marshall mentioned something like that while they were going up for communion, and I was thinking, man, like I mean, this is the modern church,
It is.
you
That's what
know?
Supich wants.
Yeah, well, and that's what a lot of the modernists want. I mean,
Yeah.
how many bishops, if you had like, plays during mass, and then, well, the thing with the priest was he like freestyled the consecration prayer. So Taylor Marshall said for sure this mass is not licit, but then I don't even know if it's valid. I mean,
Well, the bar for validity is pretty low.
but isn't that like just saying the valid words of consecration? Which,
All you have to do is hold plain bread, say this is my body, and plain wine, and say this is my blood.
oh,
I think that's all you need to do. But
oh,
maybe I'm wrong. I think St. Thomas Aquinas says that.
okay, so yeah, that was a low bar, and he, was kind of on the edge with that. So,
Yeah.
but
What are
but
you gonna
no,
do? Such is the situation.
yeah, but it was really like a Protestant worship service. I mean, that's pretty much what it was. And then I was like, okay, are they trying to do a mass here? And I really had to skip forward in the video to actually tell that, yeah, they are trying to do a mass because they didn't call it a mass.
Okay.
But like on the video, it wasn't titled mass. It was titled like or not. I don't know if it was a Sunday service or just some kind of service.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, but yeah, go watch Taylor Marshall's video, and go watch that video. It's Saint Sabina, I believe, and if you search that in YouTube, you'll find it right away. It's pretty interesting, but not worth 2.5 hours. But you can skip through, you know. So, do you have any insight in your returns from the desert? Do you want to get into your
Well,
battle plan, or?
yeah. Let's talk about that because since when I was away, the Roach Doobie came out, and Supich came out with something, and all this stuff, and I think a lot of what goes on in these, as I said, in these articles and programs, is people get real outraged and are like, "We need to do something." Okay, let's go out there and oh, what are we doing? I don't know, but let's do something. And really, nobody knows what to do because the thing is that lay people really can't do anything. Because the problem here is that you have bad guys who are trying to suppress the old mass, and the only people who can keep the old mass going are priests. Now, what are these priests doing? Well, most of them are cowards. I'll repeat myself. Most of the priests that you're dealing with are cowards, and they're just going to do whatever the bad guys say because they're just in it for a paycheck and they're trying to keep canonical status and whatever. And I don't think the Catholic faith, I mean, it matters to them, but it's like, well, the new mass is valid, so I'm going to go along and do with it. I'm not willing to fight for this stuff because you know what it is for them, the new mass or the old mass is like chocolate sauce on ice cream. You still have a nice ice cream, and you can live without chocolate sauce. It's nice to have it, but I'm here for this ice cream. And so if you're a chocolate sauce trad like Father Richard Heilman or some of these other guys who say both masses, you're not going to fight and die for the old mass. You're already part of the Novus Ordo establishment. And then you have then there's a lot of people in the pews who are what I call Brussels sprouts trads, who don't like the new mass, but they say, well, it's valid. It's like eating Brussels sprouts. If you force me, I'll eat it. So when their when their old mass is banned, like in Supich's Chicago on first Sunday of the month and Easter and Christmas, they're going to go to the new mass. They're going to complain about altar girls and communion in the hand and all this, but they're going to eat their Brussels sprouts. So they're Brussels sprout trads. Now there's people like you and me who say that the new mass is rat poison, and we're not eating it, we're not touching it, we're not getting anywhere near it. So it's rat poison. It's going to kill you if you consume it. So this is a lesson here, is that it's almost, you're dealing with people who live in completely different worlds, and you can communicate with them. You just have to take some prayer, discernment on their behalf, and maybe some apologetics and polemics on your behalf to get them out of chocolate sauce and Brussels sprout land into rat poison territory, which is where Catholics should be, because the new mass is poison, to quote Bishop Fillet. It destroys your faith, and we have all the proof of 50-some years of this new mass, and we see that nobody believes in the real presence anymore. Most Catholics, Novus Ordo Catholics, don't believe in the validity of the new mass. They're heretics. They don't believe in the Holy Eucharist. They don't believe nothing. So now, okay, so this is the problem here, is that, by the way, you just posted, that's the Bishop Schneider New Year's Eve, New Year's Day address that he gave to all of his people on YouTube. Okay, so this is the situation. So Supich has handed this thing down. Now, who's going to do anything about this? Here's what lay people can do. Make an oath to never go to the new mass under any circumstances, but it has to be a good reason. Like, that oath has to be for good reasons. It's not like, well, I just don't like the new mass. No, it's because the new mass is not Catholic. The new mass contains within it dangerous poison. The new mass is against Vatican II. Yes, even that. The new mass has abuses in it, like the female altar girls, like the female readers, and even the worst thing of all, the communion in the hand. Okay, so those things are reasons why you say, I can't ever go to the new mass under any circumstances. So now you've made that commitment. You've written an oath and you've signed it. Now, what do you do next? So you're gonna have to go to the old mass or a Byzantine rite on these Sundays and holy days, or you're going to stay home. Those are your choices. Stay home, like the bishops told you to do a year and a half, 2 years ago. Stay home and watch Mass on YouTube, because as they said, it's just as good. Spiritual communion's just as good as a real communion. Just stay home, okay? You cannot go to that sacrilegious service. If you think it is a sacrilegious service, then you can't go to it. And I think, me, John, you and I, we think that it's a sacrilegious service, so we're not going. You know, somebody said something about, well, SSPX says you can go if it's a wedding or a funeral. I'm probably never even going if it's a wedding or a funeral, because it's a sacrilegious service, and I'm not going to that. Where they're doing communion in the hand, no, not going. Count me out. I won't be there. Maybe I'll leave before that happens or whatever. I don't know. I haven't thought about it, but so this is what we can do. We lay people have to make that oath. Never Novus Ordo. Hell no Bergoglio. Just chant that, put it on the sign, and say, hell no Bergoglio. Hell no Bergoglio. And never Novus Ordo. We're just not going to it. And never give any money to the diocesan anything in any way that the money could go into your bishop's hands. If he's a bad bishop, forget about it. You're not giving him 1 red cent, no nothing. So affiliate with SSPX. Seek out the diocesan Latin Mass. It's still open when it is open. Go Byzantine or stay home. That's it. Now, if you're a priest or a bishop or whatever, what we're seeing here is it seems like that there is finally going to be a resistance. I sent this article to you and Brett about the Institute of the Good Shepherd, who has said, we're not obeying any of this roach stuff. Forget it. And there was already a crackdown in some Brazilian diocese where the bishop told them, you're not allowed to use these churches. And they says, that's fine. So they're going to have mass in a banquet hall. But they're going to keep saying the mass. And that's what we need to do. We need to keep saying the mass, priests. And people, you keep going at this. Under no circumstances do you stop. You do not fear any penalties from these fake bishops. You laugh in the face of their interdicts and excommunications because they're completely invalid. The Catholic Church has said that the rights given to us in use by the Roman Catholic Church that came to us even before Trent and were canonized by Trent, those are the rights. You can't use any others. I'm kind of paraphrasing here. These perfectly convey the Catholic faith. Quo primum says that no priest can have any scruple or be forced to use any other missal besides this one because it perfectly summarizes the Catholic faith. So I am glad this is happening. Thank God for Supich. Thank God for Bergoglio. I wish that they would do more punishments. I wish that they would do more interdicts, suspensions, and cancelings because we need to make the clean break here. We need to separate the sheep from the goats. No more chocolate sauce trads. No more Brussels sprouts trads. We only want pure novus ordos who are like Father Flieger, who are like Supich and Father James Martin, and we want base trads like the Institute of the Good Shepherd. That's what we want. And I'm glad that it's happening. And Sarah and company, Sarah can go with Supich. He'll enjoy it. It's valid. Go over there to Father Flieger's Mass. It'll be great. It's the body and blood of Christ. So you say, Sarah, and just go over there and enjoy that big fat mess. Enjoy the Vatican II. Choke on that Vatican II. That's what you can do. But we're gonna be kicked out. And that thing over there is dying. It's dead already. It's irrelevant and dead. And we're the true church is the Eastern rites and the traditional Roman rite. That is the true church. And then there's this fake church, false church, Bergoglio and Supich and the Novus Ordo and those people over there. And to quote, who was it? Father Linus Clovis and Father Wynandy. And they says, well, right now we have Bergoglio who's head of two churches. He's head of the Catholic Church, which is us. And then he's head of this fake church, which is Flieger and Supich and all those guys. And but the split's coming here. Bergoglio is going to make sure that happens. Thank God, because lies are no good. You don't want to live in a lie, like your wife is she doesn't really love you and she's living a double life and I don't know with some other guy or whatever. You need to clear this thing up, okay? And so that means we gotta force Bergoglio's hand here to kick us out. So Institute the Good Shepherd is standing up and saying we're taking this suspension or whatever, and we're going to keep saying the old mass.
Yeah, and so as far as I'm aware, we'll see what it's going to be. These next few weeks are going to be very telling as to how anyone is going to, any direction anyone's going to go. Because if we can rely on the Institute of Christ the King to stand up for the Catholic faith and not compromise, then that's going to, that's going to be that's going to be massive for us because they're going to lead us, and then we're just going to have to support them.
Yeah. One thing that'll be interesting is these guys get kicked out of dioceses, but they don't actually get kicked out. I mean, they're going to say, you can't use our churches, but then they say, fine, we'll go say mass in a banquet hall or a funeral home to get people to go with them. And I hope they do that and they travel around or whatever. So that way people have access to the Mass and sacraments. It'll be actually easier for them when you're kicked out and not stuck in one place. When you go full resistance like SSPX does and you just travel wherever and do the sacraments, it's a lot. You can do a lot more when you're not bound by the novus ordo establishment who's put handcuffs on you. See, for a long time we were here in these handcuffs. You couldn't advertise the Lat Mass too much. You couldn't have it on weekdays. You had to, pinch incense to the novus ordo and say it was great or whatever. But now the handcuffs are off. So Institute of Good Shepherd has basically gone into disobedience. Society of St. Vincent Ferrer has gone into disobedience. You already got the OG, the Society of St. Pius X out there. Hopefully Institute of Christ the King, or a good portion of them, goes into disobedience. And when I say disobedience, I mean that's to Bergoglio. They're actually being obedient to Catholic tradition, which is actually much more important than Bergoglio. And Fraternity of St. Peter, like Anthony asked in the question mark, what about FSSP? I have no idea what they're going to do. Although I have talked to some, I have some contacts in Fraternity of St. Peter. For instance, we heard a word, I guess this was last weekend, heard a word that Roach says that this new dubia, or the motu propria that basically took away the Pontificale Romanum from anybody's use, means that Fraternity of St. Peter can't ordain in the old rite, or bishops can't ordain them in the old rite. If that's true, then that's basically the end of the Fraternity of St. Peter Seminary, because all those guys will not accept ordination in the new rite. Now, what's going to happen to those guys? Are they going to go into form a FSSP resistance type movement as a different sort of religious order, or will they be able to be accepted into Society of St. Pius X? Will somebody like Bishop Schneider or Cardinal Burke or Bishop Gaynor just say, I'm not obeying this stupid thing. I'm going to do their ordinations in the old rite, and I'll take a suspension too. Will they do that? I don't know.
What about a retired bishop?
That's it. That's the best thing, and that's why I'm saying Gaynor, man. Gaynor should just go totally trad and just go out there and just start ordaining these guys.
I don't see him doing that. He's got 2 more years, but there's what there is
only
one
more.
But there's, I mean, you have Bishop Gracita. He's 98.
Like 98. What, 98?
98. Yeah. But I'm saying there's others like him though. Like you look at Bishop Howander, who's basically SSPX.
Yeah, him.
He's a retired bishop of Chur, Switzerland, which we talked about extensively.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have other guys like that
Gullickson?
too.
Do you think Gullickson would resist?
He's an intriguing name because he's retired and he's living in South Dakota, which is his roots, and he took an early retirement, presumably because he wanted to retire. I don't know. He's not, I don't even know if he's 75. I think he's like early 70s.
Yeah, I think he wanted to get out because he was sick of Bergoglio and his antics.
And that's quite the possibility. I mean, he asked Pope Francis for an early retirement, and Francis was like, well, can you stay for like 6 months or so? And he's like, yeah, I guess. And that's exactly how it happened. So, but no, I mean, he's certainly I mean, we have people, and I know, I don't know how much Bishop Olmsted in Phoenix is willing to fight, but tomorrow's January, and he turns 75 in January, so he's got a few weeks left.
Yeah.
And they're going to replace him pretty quickly because he's very friendly towards traditionalists. Phoenix is an area where they have a lot of Hispanics, and you know how they are about immigration and all this stuff. So, and I've been warning people, I think there's going to be a bad bishop appointed to Phoenix. You have a terrible one to the south. I think his name is Weisenberger. He's in his 60s, very friendly towards LMNOP. You have that auxiliary. Well, first off, you have McElroy in San Diego, who's possibly, I mean, he's definitely top 5 worst bishops in the United States. And his auxiliary bishop is particularly horrible as well. I mean, it's basically McElroy 2.0. His name is Bishop John Dolan. So, I mean, you have some terrible possibilities. You also have, like, some decent ones. But anyway, there's bishops that are retiring, and what do they think? Are they just kind of cruising on their way out and saying, all right, I'm just gonna retire and enjoy myself? I don't know. So, but I don't see any of them standing up.
I think that we're going to see some guys. I think we are going to see some guys break ranks and do ordinations for Fraternity of St. Peter, Resistance, Institute of Christ the King, Resistance, Institute of Good Shepherd, St. Vincent Ferrer. I think you're going to see some guys break ranks. SSPX would help them. I'm convinced now that they're going to. The SSPX is going to say it is even more of an emergency situation than it's ever been. We're going to ordain for you guys who are in these resistance movements. If you affiliate with us, and you're not going to join us, but you're going to affiliate with us and help us, like go do our thing where we go to chapels and various set up places and whatnot. I think SSPX is going to help them.
Well, Gullickson's the only one who I could remotely see from the United States. There are probably trad bishops in other parts of the country, like Hawander, but I'm sure there's several other ones.
And we don't even know this is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back, where some bishop, like Mustarts, look at him, how pissed he was whenever the Motu Proprio came out. Mustard said this was a joke. He could crack, and he could just join SSPX right now.
Now where is he from?
He's in Netherlands.
Oh, is that guy who said doesn't apply? Like this is completely irrelevant or something.
No, he really ripped it and said Bergoglio is an evildoer and harming the church and all this stuff. He really went black-pilled on this thing.
That's pretty funny. Now, what do you think about the FSSP? The FSSP seminarians? I would like to see them sort of stay. I don't want to see them merge with the SSPX. I mean, that would kind of be like a super team almost, but I would like to see. But I like the diversity. I like the different religious orders. They have different charisms, and I would like to see them try to maintain their.
But what's the charism of the Fraternity of St. Peter?
You're right.
What is it?
Obedience. Obedience to the Pope.
Well, let's hold on a second, though. So I have a friend, Brother Michael, who is the head of the Canons Regulars of St. Thomas Aquinas. So Canons Regulars St. Thomas Aquinas is canonically established in the diocese, in Pop Rocky's diocese. Do you know what that is? It's in Illinois.
Is it Springfield?
Springfield, yeah. So they're canonically established in Springfield, Illinois, in that diocese, and they're an Old Mass only group. So I know the superior there, Brother Michael. So he said he was in the fraternity for a couple of years. He was about to be, he almost made it the subdeacon before they kicked him out. Now, he told me that Father Bissig was still at the seminary back then. I think he still is at the seminary. And he would give the talks about the history of Fraternity of St. Peter and all this. And he said, okay, so the story with the Fraternity of St. Peter is we were established by Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre, and he's our founder. And we only left him because we wanted to not go with an excommunication, and Rome offered us this deal, so we took it. But we're basically the SSPX in union with Rome. So that's the position of Father Bissig, and that's the Fraternity of St. Peter. That's their establishment. Now that they've been screwed. You posted those memes, or Brent sent me those memes about the Ecclesia Day participation trophies or whatever. 33 years of fidelity, and all I got was this crappy trophy for participating. And what did you get out of this? You got tricked. You were duped. So Fraternity of St. Peter and the elites should just go right back to the SSPX. Now, the SSPX guys, it depends on whether the SSPX guys are not vindictive. They're going to say, oh, we're glad you've had a change of heart. We'll welcome you. But I don't know. Again, I kind of agree with you. It's not necessary for them to just join SSPX. If they bring a sufficient number of people, they can just call themselves, the fraternity of, I don't know, whatever. The priestly fraternity of St. Peter Resistance. Like, that's what it can be. And they'll have their own superiors. Maybe Father Bissig will be the superior. And because he was ordained by Archbishop Lefebvre, remember that. And a lot of those old guys were. The original Fraternity of St. Peter guys were ordained by Archbishop Lefebvre. They were suspended with Archbishop Lefebvre, and they just decided to join in 88 because they liked the deal. Well, the deal's over, dudes. So the deal's off. So get lost and go back to where you came from, which is the OG, the original Society of St. Pius X. So, but I think they should maintain some independence and do their own thing because, they've been away for 33 years, but they're really not much different than Society of St. Pius X. So I don't know what they're going to do. I got a feeling that the guys who are priests already in the fraternity, I think that some of those guys are going to stick around and accept Vatican II and the new Mass and all this stuff because they like canonical status and obedience and food and money. So they'll just get bribed into that stuff. But the guys who are rat poison trads, who is a lot of the seminarians and young priests, I think they're going to break ranks.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, if they like money, they can do whatever they want, and they'll still get money. Because, like, not whatever they want, but the only thing there is canonical status. Because if they do their resistance thing, there's going to be money. And if they say we need to build a church, like we need to raise money to buy this church building, guess what? They're going to raise it because there's a lot of people that like them.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people that attend their masses. They know that.
Yeah.
And it's growing. So now you make an interesting point. It would be interesting. It would be particularly helpful for the SSPX to, I don't know, help them out in a way. Like maybe supply them with bishops, or not supply them with bishops, but like use their bishops for ordinations in the old rite.
Yeah, I think they will, if fraternity asks.
Yeah, and I think the SSPX, I don't know, I have this impression where the SSPX is going to play hardball for a little bit. If the FSSP tries to, ask for assistance, do you think?
No.
And I didn't get that.
No,
I didn't get that impression from the Crisis in the Church series that's on YouTube and the SSPX's website. It seemed to me like they're very open towards anyone attending their masses, no matter what your background is. And based on the people that I've talked to who have attended the SSPX, I haven't met any complete wackos that Church Militant says exist out there. I'm sure there's some.
The only wackos are the people who are working Church Militant.
Well, I'm sure there's
SSPX.
Well, I mean, every group has some crazies, but I don't think the SSPX. I don't think that the people that attend are going to be hostile towards the FSSP. Like,
who cares about the people that attend? They're just potatoes or whatever. They don't matter. It's what does the bishops and the superiors of the SSPX have to think about this if fraternity comes back with hat in hand and says, hey, you were right, help us?
Yeah, I mean, circumstances changed, and if they could see what's going on, then they should be accommodating, because obviously you had your canonical status and you could do your thing. Now you can't.
Yeah.
And it's like if they really are saying there's a crisis in the church, well, guess what? This is definitely a crisis. And I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
what we should do. What they there was a really good crisis in the church that came out, I think, this week, and it was about the SSPX in Poland. Father Stalin was on there. Did you watch that one?
I did not watch that. I have one bookmarked. I think it was. I don't know if you're talking about the same thing as I'm thinking, but it was Matt Gasper's with Catholic Family News. It wasn't Matt. It was the other guy from Catholic Family News who interviewed it.
Yes, that's it. It's that one with Brian McCall. Is that his name?
I think that sounds right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it
haven't
wasn't a
watched it, but I
crisis in the
bookmarked it.
church. It was a Catholic Family News interviewing Father Stalin, and he talks about the growth of the SSPX in Poland. But this was, remember, Poland's a place where 13 priests just joined the SSPX from the Novus Ordo, and he
Yeah,
talked about one of whom was Father Wojciech or whatever it was. And he says, I actually battled with this guy before. He was really SSPX, wrote a lot of polemics against us, and was nasty and all this. But he started to come around, and he started to come around. Um, I think it was during the virus, but then Traditionis Custodes came out. He's like, I'm done. I don't believe this stuff anymore, that the Pope has the power to suspend the traditional Latin Mass. So he went in, he called actually, the day of Traditionis Custodes, the superior of the Dominicans went to Father Wojtek and said, you're done. You're never saying the old Mass again. And Father Wojtek says, then we're going to fight this. Father Wojtek then called the SSPX guy and said, hey, will you let me in? I'm sorry. And the SSPX guy says, write down why you're doing this in the top theological terms, and then publish it. And then so he did that, and it was that great manifesto that we all read. And now he's cooperating with SSPX. So they let him in. He lives with them now, and he does apostolate work for them. So I really think that's the path to go. And you're going to, in Poland, they're getting a ton of guys who are joining up with them. I think in America, the SSPX could get probably 3 to 4 times that. I think they could get 50 guys join from the Fraternity Institute, diocesan, and all this stuff, and these restrictions start coming down, because they haven't even started yet. I mean, I guess they just started in Chicago, but I think that you're going to see a mass influx into SSPX via affiliation. I think it's going to be mostly affiliation, and it's going to be awesome when they have a lot more priests. They're going to be able to do so much more.
yeah,
Like they'll be able to have chapels in many dioceses where they're needed. Because in a
yeah,
lot of places they're not right now. They're really not needed, but they have chapels anyway. But they need to go out there and set up chapels where they are needed, where there's no access to tradition whatsoever.
yeah, definitely. Now I want to get to some of the comments here.
Yeah,
Can you get to some of the comments? All right.
go ahead.
Anthony asks, which blogs, websites, channels do you guys watch, read to stay current? Well, this channel, EVTN News. That's all you need, right?
The number one news source on the internet.
Can't I self-identified, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Canon 212 is pretty good.
John, are you undergoing, is EVTN getting hormone treatments to transition into the number one news organization on the internet?
No, I don't think I can't afford the drugs right now.
Wasn't that covered by insurance policies?
I don't
No,
know.
under Resident Brandon, didn't he mandate that to be covered?
I don't know. I'll have to look and see what healthcare.gov covers.
Okay.
We'll have to see. I mean, if you like your plan, you can keep it, right? If you like your mass, you can keep it, right? What else? Catholic News Agency usually has some headlines.
I use LifeSite. That's one that
LifeSite,
I
yeah.
see quite a bit.
And I'm not a fan of. And you talked about staying out of this news stuff. Like, I'm not really a fan of the political coverage, because for me, like, I have my political opinions, and nothing LifeSite says is really going to change it, because I already agree. So for me, it's just kind of redundant stuff. So I have to filter through all their political stuff to get to the Catholic news. I don't know. That's just me, though. I mean, if you like that stuff, that's fine. It's good stuff anyway. But
also, 1 Peter 5 is another one I look at.
Yeah, and Crisis has been doing some pretty good
Also
stuff. They're
really
not
good,
necessarily news, but they have a few newsworthy items. Eric Sammons has a really good YouTube channel.
Yeah, I like his YouTube.
And, I haven't. I did notice that Catholic Family News with Matt Gaspers has. They have like a weekly news rundown, and I thought, if they're doing that, now it's an hour show every week, and I thought, if they're doing that, is EVTN really necessary? And it's just these thoughts that go through my mind, and I'm like, I'll have to listen to it, but I mean, we'll see.
Yep.
We'll see in time. All right, the next one is SSPX still suspended divinis. What does that entail? Does SSPX say the suspension isn't valid like the view of the original excommunications? Okay, so I think Pope Francis granted them jurisdiction, right? And he says that later on.
Well, hold on. Go back to that. Highlight that.
Okay.
That what we just were. So the SSPX was never suspended ad divinis. Archbishop Lefebvre was suspended ad divinis. So suspension, as far as I know, according to canon law, only happens to one person. So what happened with SSPX is they were canonically suppressed without any good reason or trial or anything like that in 72 or 74. And Archbishop Lefebvre said, hey, you didn't do this right, and it was a hoax, and you're persecuting this whole operation because we won't accept the new mass. So I'm just going to keep doing this. Then it was in 75. It was 75 or 76. They gave him the suspension ad divinis because he was doing ordinations for people who didn't have nobody had any canonical status, and he was ordaining people. So they slapped him with the suspension ad divinis. And so he wasn't allowed to do anything publicly anymore. And he said, no, I'm not going to obey that because you're destroying the church and we're in a state of necessity. So a suspension ad divinis, as far as I know, that has to be declared on each. I think that has to be declared on each individual person. So they have to be named by name and said, you're suspended. What does that entail? A suspension means you're legally not allowed to do any of the sacraments in public. And then when he did that consecration of bishops, then him and those bishops were allegedly got an automatic excommunication. So what does that add to the whole thing? I honestly don't know, because they already weren't allowed to celebrate the sacraments. I think the excommunication meant they weren't allowed to receive any sacraments except in danger of death. I'm not sure. Does SSPX say that the suspension isn't valid like their view of the original excommunications? Well, they were never suspended ad divinis. But what happened here is something interesting. So after Benedict lifted this is all legalese here. Who knows if any of this matters? It doesn't matter. None of this matters. Who knows if anybody cares? Nobody in Rome cares. They're not interested in this. This is just an exercise in futility here to discuss these things because canon law doesn't matter. Bergoglio told you. So, after I've come to that conclusion, this is pointless to answer this question. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. None of this matters. Bergoglio it doesn't matter. I'm not even going to answer it because it doesn't matter.
I said to Brett on a show that canon law, I mean, the bad guys have shown that they can and will change canon law to fit their ideas. Just like the last one. The only
people who care about canon law are people who have weak consciences and no conviction for what's right or wrong or knowledge of the Catholic Church. Because canon law can be changed like this by Bergoglio, and unless this is something that's really traditional, but even that they'll change it. Like Pius XII changed. There was a canon law that existed from the time of the apostles that you had to fast from midnight for Holy Communion. And then he went and said, oh, that's no longer anymore. No big deal. It means nothing. And they tell you it means nothing because they change it and they break it all the time. So I'm not in the least bit concerned about what's canon law. I'm concerned about what's Catholic and what's traditional. Done. They don't believe it. I don't believe it. I'm not playing those games. To quote Arnold Schwarzenegger in Predator, no more games. Tell us what you saw. Done with that. Who cares? If you care about that, go to the Fraternity of St. Peter.
Until you lose your mass.
They don't exist anymore. Then go to the Novus Ordo and like it because it's legal. According to the modern canon law, the Novus Ordo is perfectly fine. So if you're worried about that, go to that Novus Ordo and like it. Go and receive communion in the hand and like it because that's legal according to the modern canon law. Go worship a Pachamama because that's legal according to the modern canon law, according to Bergoglio.
Yeah, the Pope said so.
He said it. So go do it if that's your religion.
Okay, Father Ripperger seems to view the SSPX suspension as valid.
He likes
So,
his. He's in a nice canonical status. He doesn't have to
well,
do anything.
there
Whatever.
is there is a YouTube video of him saying that he was uncomfortable with the SSPX, but I believe there was someone who clarified this. I don't know if this was either the video was recorded either before Benedict removed the excommunications,
Hmm.
uh, or they were granted jurisdiction by Pope Francis. So I think after that, those you have to put that in the context of prior to those two events. I don't know which one it was prior to, but it seemed like this was an old video, and who knows his perspective now. It may or may not be different from this old video that just randomly happens to be on YouTube.
Yeah, maybe. But what do I think about him? He better practice his novus ordo.
That's well, and that's the thing. So Father Ripper is an interesting situation. He
Yeah.
he has his own religious order, doesn't he? Like,
It doesn't. It has no canonical status.
well, there you go, and it won't
It'll
because
never get it.
no, and he said something about how he was going to try. I was listening to one of his interviews, and he said that he was going to try to get his religious order kind of up and running. It's called like the Doloran Fathers
Yeah.
or
Hmm.
something. And he said that if it didn't work out, then he would just go back into the FSSP. Well, it's not going to work out, and
Hey, he
the
better
FSSP is it's not going to exist.
stretch out this hand to do the concelebration here. Am
So,
I doing it right?
so
Novus
what's Father?
Ordo concelebration.
So you bring up a very good point, our Father Ripperger. What is he going to do? And this is an unintended point by RR, but what's
It's
Father
great.
Ripperger going to
I
do?
love it. I hope his bishop forces him to grovel. I hope he commands him under obedience to go give communion in the hand and accept the new mass. Then we'll put Father Ripperger to the test. All the guys who have lived in the glass houses where everything is so easy, put them to the test. Turn the thumb screws and let's see. Are you a chocolate sauce trad? Or are you a Brussels sprout trad? Or are you a rat poison trad?
So Father Ripperger is in Denver under Aquila.
Aquila? I think it's
Aquila,
Aquila,
yeah.
isn't it?
Father, I don't know. I use the Spanish pronunciation for everything whenever I see that. But
I don't
he's
know
not
where the
Hispanic
accent
anyway.
is.
He's not. But anyway, also Father
The
Dave Nix is
the
in that same.
Spanish accent is on the it's on the next to last syllable, so it's Aquila.
I
Unless
don't
there's an
know.
accent on the A, it's Aquila.
I don't know. We'll look up our phonics.
No, I know the rule. Unless you see an
Well,
accent mark on the A, it's Aquila.
okay, maybe I'll call the archdiocese and say, I have a very important question. How do you say the archbishop's name? Like, oh, that's not really important. Sorry, But anyway,
What do you mean
Father
it's
Dave
not
Nix is
important?
also in that archdiocese,
Yeah.
so we'll see what happens there. And he seems Archbishop Aquila. He seems to be a little bit more on the conservative side, but who knows? I believe one of our commenters said at one point that his priest in the Archdiocese of Denver was banned from saying Mass ad Orientem, Novus Ordo Mass. So, I mean, that your conservative guy goes out the window at that point. Who knows?
Dudes,
Like
why
I said,
bother
these
with that? Why bother in that Novus Ordo hierarchy? If they're not going to let you be Catholic, why do you want to be a part of it? It's a joke.
well, these next 2 months are going to be the turning point. Now, here's another thing: is that Supich could easily be named to a position in the Vatican and moved out of Chicago. At that point, everything he's said and done it can be undone right away. You know,
It's
so
why it doesn't matter.
there's another factor in this whole thing, but Supich's deadline is January 20 something,
For what?
and for ah well, the new rules go into effect February, like starting the beginning of February. So the first Sunday of February, the Institute, and St. John Cantus, they're going to be saying exclusively Novus Ordos on the first Sunday, unless. Well, I think there is a.
Cantus will do it, but that's not going to fly with the Institute. They're going to quit.
Yeah, and it's going to be a showdown. And so we only have a month to go.
I'm glad it's coming. Again, thank God. I love these guys. I
Yeah,
don't
and
like heresy, but these are some top-notch heretics who are really they're emboldened. They're like creating their own creeds now, and this is great. I'm glad that they're doing it because the time for ambiguity is over.
yeah, well, I think a lot of the bad bishops are kind of sitting back, taking a look at what's going to happen, because if the institute has, if they put up a resistance against Supich, then what are they going to do with all the other bad bishops who try to shut them down? Same with the FSSP. I mean, it's going to be probably pretty similar. So um, it's just these showdowns are going to be happening in the next month, and it's good. I mean, we're going to have a lot of news, and we're going to have hopefully a lot of resistance. And yeah, I mean, so Anthony, looks like seems like Anthony is. I don't know. I don't mean to look into your situation, but I'll bet you attended the FSSP.
Well, here's the worst case. They die. So your choice is either go to the new mass, stay home, or go to the SSPX. You know, that's a question for you. Just stay tuned to find out what happens at Fraternity of St. Peter. Frankly, I don't care what happens at Fraternity of St. Peter. If they've served their usefulness and they die, they die. To quote even Ivan Drago in Rocky IV, if he dies, he dies. It doesn't matter,
Well,
Fraternity of St. Peter.
and you know what Father Jackson, what we'll say about Father Jackson, before he was arrested, in his bulletin, he said, if the Latin Mass is shut down, I'm going to go house to house of private chapels and say the old Mass. And, you know, and you think about what has happened since he got arrested. I'm not saying I'm judging the situation either way, but it seems a little bit weird.
His arrest?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
coincidental with the
Absolutely.
timing of all this stuff now.
Yeah. The
I
thing,
don't know if they're gonna go after one guy or not, but
he was kind of a ringleader in the Fraternity of St. Peter. He did have a lot of weight to him. I don't know if he's communicating with guys still in the fraternity with his friends or whatever. Um, maybe. I hope he is. I mean, I don't even know. I think he's innocent, but honestly, who knows? Maybe he lost his religion because of Bergoglio or something. I don't know.
yeah, it's hard to tell. We haven't made a judgment like Church Militant, but
Yeah, we don't have those special glasses.
by the way, where's Church Militant in this fight? I'm curious
They're new
because
mass. They don't care. This is not important to them. They want
yeah,
obedience. Obedience to Supich. That's what they want.
well, I mean that's well they're under Vigneron, but they don't even want obedience to him. So they're basically like their own independent group with their own private chapel.
They're like CMRI.
except Novus Ordo.
Yeah, they're Novus Ordo CMRI. Who is their
So
chaplain anyway?
is it Father Perone?
Is it? I don't know.
Because he probably goes there and says mass at their private chapel.
Probably, if it's strictly private. I would have thought that if it was not at least semi-private, it would have gotten out and he'd be busted.
I'm surprised they didn't build themselves an actual church.
Well, they do have a chapel in that studio. There's
Yeah, but I
pictures
think
of
it's
it. In that calendar that I gave you, there's a picture of it. Do you have it?
yeah, I think it's probably pretty small though, isn't it?
It looks like it could hold maybe 20 to 30 people.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
this is now out of I don't know. This is now what would you call it? Like a I want
Expired,
well, it is
deprecated,
expired now, but it's an antique. I don't know. I mean, I could sell this for
collectible,
what hundreds of dollars on eBay for a
maybe.
fundraiser.
Especially those pictures of Horus that are in there.
Well, here's a good one. The February picture. Maybe
Oh,
I
there's
should.
the cruise.
The
The Parent
cruise.
Ryan cruise.
Yep,
Yes.
this is what you want to see in your religious calendar. And then let's see. I think this is where they're located.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a
So
dentist's office
I know it's really
or an auto
inspiring.
parts store.
Really inspiring there. Let me see what else there's.
Ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you that the John the Son of Thunder program international headquarters, the storefront looks much nicer than that. There it is, the man, the myth, the legend, Michael Voris.
Let's see what else they have here. I'm looking for that private chapel. Is it coming up?
I think
There's
it's towards
this.
the end of the year. Voris in the studio with those salmon-colored pants on. Well, maybe that was Gaudete Sunday.
This looks
There it
almost like a
is.
Wall Street type of
It
deal.
looks like Fox News, except they don't have. Church Militant, unfortunately, doesn't have the scantily clad models with short skirts on, showing their legs. Maybe
Oh, okay.
Church Militant would. Yeah, there's the chapel. It's actually really nice there.
That's a nice high altar, but it does look
Yeah.
tiny though, doesn't it? I mean, I don't know.
Can you count? What is that? Is there 2 or 3 chairs on each side of the aisle?
Three on each.
How many rows there?
Well, in the photo, it looks like there's only 4 rows. Of course, it might be bigger than that,
Do you
but
think there's 24 people there?
I don't know. You can't have. I mean, this is basically just for their staff. Like, you couldn't have a real, like, a full mass there or anything.
No,
With
it's just
any,
for their staff.
I mean, it's only, yeah. So, I don't know. I'm surprised they didn't try to build themselves a church, though. I mean, it would be ironic because they're criticizing Brother Martin, and
Yeah.
but yeah, yes, this is something I thought was really ridiculous. I mean, I couldn't believe it when I saw it.
Do you think Milo's doing that ironically? I mean, I saw some stuff and I thought it was ironic. He's doing it ironically.
I have no idea. Milo's. I don't even know what to think about him. I mean,
He was at Penn State in, I think it was in October, and some of the kids that we know went to see him. And the video is on YouTube. It was actually a really, really good talk.
yeah,
he just kind of told stories, but I enjoyed the talk.
He's pretty funny, but he's also wildly inappropriate at certain times.
I know, but that's why I kind of like him, because he's so he says stuff so wildly inappropriate, and like it's great. It's great.
I don't know, but no, he does offend people, and but it was funny to see, like, he actually didn't like attack people like he didn't full on attack people. Like, he was kind of just like joking around with them, but I like that. Like, he was still respectful. And
you talking about at the Penn State talk?
Yeah, like he wasn't like full on attacking.
Well, he did tell that one girl she was so unattractive no man would want to marry her.
What was it, a feminist?
It was some feminist. She actually wasn't ugly. It was just that she had, the attitude, which is unattractive, and then no real man would want to marry you because of that.
Absolutely.
But Milo says stuff like that. It's great.
Point blank, yeah.
Yeah, he's just so brutally honest, and he's honest about himself too. He rips on himself a lot. He went out there and said, like, I apologize for my looks. Turning heterosexual makes you gain 20 pounds. He mentioned that. He said he was fat now that he was straight.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I thought that, yeah. I mean, some of it's funny, some of it's like wildly inappropriate. I don't know. Yeah. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but apparently it is for Church Militant, and they got their new. I don't know. He's not really an employee, but he's kind of affiliated with them.
Yeah.
Do you have any closing thoughts?
My closing thoughts are: we're in the middle of a war. There's a cloud of war. The rules of engagement have changed. Bergoglio and the mainstream church have shown that nothing matters to them except victory. And so our rules of engagement change as well. We don't worry about canonical status. We don't worry about licit or illicit. We worry about Catholic or non-Catholic. That's what we worry about. We worry about, that's it. So either Catholic or non-Catholic, and you do what's Catholic and you avoid what's non-Catholic. You believe the Catholic faith, you avoid heresies, and that's what you do. So you avoid the novus ordo and you go to the traditional Latin Mass or the Eastern rites, and You fight the modernists. You don't give them 1 red cent. You have nothing to do with Supich or McElroy or Roach or Bergoglio or any of these guys. My position, I think your position, and pretty much everybody we know, well, with some exceptions, is those guys actually sit on the chair of Moses, to quote Christ. The Pharisees sit on the chair of Moses, but Christ says they're actually. Did Christ say that the Pharisees were teaching the faith? I think he said, like, do what they say, but not what they do. But you can't even say that about Bergoglio, because he's not teaching the faith, and neither is Roach or any of these guys. So they sit on the chair of Moses. Don't listen to what they say. Don't do what they do, but just hang around and wait until they die and get somebody else elected in their place who's actually a Catholic. Because remember, what the goal of the Pope and these bishops are is to govern the church, to make sure that we can save our souls, so we have access to the sacraments, not for them to create a new religion. So that's right out the window. Not for them to build a Tower of Babel of Vatican II with the new Mass. That's not why they're there. So to quote Williamson, you say, no, Holy Father, we can't do that. And so that's what you do. You say, no, not going to accept that. I'm going to keep with what I've been doing, which is the traditional Catholic faith. And you can suspend me, excommunicate me. You can call me a non-Catholic and call me whatever names you want. That doesn't matter. The only man who's judging me is Jesus Christ on the last day. Nobody else but Jesus Christ on the last day. And in my heart of hearts, in my mind, and my soul, I am convinced that this traditional Catholic faith is the truth, and it is what God wants me to do, and it is how I will save my soul. And none of that other stuff matters.
Yeah, and I do want to say now would be a really good time. I've been encouraging you to do this for a long time, but now would be a really good time to network with your community.
Yeah.
With your local Catholic community. Because once Supich's directives go into effect in February, the rest of the bishops are going to decide what they want to do, and the floodgates are going to open. You have maybe a month or less to game plan what you're going to do. And so come up with a game plan. Contact these people. I mean, this is a holiday weekend. But if you're not doing anything, come up with your game plan now. And you should do that anyway. So
yeah, go to start collecting names, phone numbers, and email addresses. So when you're canceled and somebody there makes contact with SSPX and says, hey, show up, or says, hey, we're all just going to go over to this Byzantine church across the street or on the other side of town, and we'll meet there. So arrange that, and then everybody get together and hang out. Keep the group together.
All right, and with that, thank you so much for watching, everyone. Have a great new year, and we are the laity.
And we will not be silent.